Well, you mentioned there that Michael Van Gerwen in the same half as the two people ranked ahead of him in the world, Gerwen Price and Peter Wright, who could meet in the second round, the way the draw turned out. But that, and all three of them are in that bottom half of the draw, which I guess means that you could say in some ways the top half might appear more wide open or more winnable. Don't know if I would say that because of how good Humphries has played this year, especially on the European Tour. But who do you fancy to come through that top half and make it through to Sunday's final?
It's another tough one, isn't it? And a quick head count, I think we've got 8 players in the bottom half that have all won a major title in the PDC. And then the top half, I think you've got 4 of them and 2 are meeting in the first round, Rob Cross and James Wade. Then you've also got Danny Noppert and Nathan Aspinall, 2 former winners of the UK Open. But I look at that top half and there's a lot of names in there who have impressed on the Euro Tour, which is, of course, what got them into this tournament in the first place. The likes of Andrew Goulding, Martin Lukeman, both making finals. Damon Heta, who won the last of the Euro Tour events this year. Luke Humphries, who won 4 of them. So it's an exciting half to follow. And I think with a lot of the bigger names all packed into that opposite half of the draw, you do half expect this to be a weekend where we see someone come through the pack and make their mark in a major event. And maybe it'll be Luke Humphries' time to land that first major. We've backed him in the past to get that breakthrough this year. And as the number 1 seed for this tournament, how does he deal with any added pressure that might bring? And having gone out early in the last 2 big events, the World Match Play, the World Grand Prix, he'll want to do well. And he's another one that he's spoken about wanting to be in the Premier League. And to do that, you do have to have deep runs on the TV. And this is the shop window, if you like, to potentially get yourself in that tournament by winning a tournament like the European Championship. And Michael Smith, another one, still hunting that first major title. And this year there's been times where he's looked closer, and he probably has been closer than ever to getting that one, the World Championship, the UK Open, losing out in the decider there. So yeah, again, like Luke Humphries, he's someone that's had a couple of early exits in the match play in the Grand Prix. And Dirk van Dijvenbode as well, he's had some finals on TV. Damien Heta, who I just mentioned, has won on stage recently. So got asked this question on my way to London, who's going to win the European Championship, by one of our listeners, and I plucked out Dirk's name from the list. So I'm going to stick with that. I haven't changed my mind on that. And he's had 2 TV finals this year. He had a final last week on the floor, so he's into some decent form, and I've just got a feeling it could be his weekend. But you could probably go down that list and pick out 7, 8, 9, maybe more of the players on there that could have a run and get to the final. But I'm going to stick with someone who's had recent experience of having deep runs on the TV. I'm going to stick with Dirk for this one to get to the final, and this time round he's going to go one step further and get that first major title.
I think that's a more than defensible pick, and is one of the players I'm considering as well. I'll start, where you started, and that's with Luke Humphries. He is the number 1 seed, but the number 1 seed has not meant that you're going to have safe passage to the final. You mentioned the 2017, the last time Michael Van Gerwen won the title here. It's also the last time the number 1 seed made it past the quarterfinals. The following year, Van Gerwen, as the top seed, lost in the second round to Steve West. And that year after that, lost in the first round to Ross Smith. 2020, the number 1 seed was Joe Cullen, went out first round to Willie O'Connor. Last year, Gerwen Price was the top seed, and he made it to the quarterfinal before Van Gerwen beat him. Granted, in fairness to Gezi, he played worthy of the number 1 seed across the 3 matches, averaging nearly 105, nearly 103, and 107.5 in the match he lost to MVG. So he played at a high standard, but it hasn't been an easy run of it for top seeds recently. And while Luke Humphries dominated the Euro Tour for much of the year, winning 3 in a row, 4 total, he hasn't hit the same heights the last few Euro Tours. And as you mentioned, he's gone out early in the last couple majors, and as a I won't quite say resurgent Christoph Ratajski in the first round, but a Ratajski that is definitely playing better than he was for the first few months of the year. That's a tough matchup, and one that he could very well lose if he isn't sharp right off the bat, especially in a best out of 11 leg match. We also have Rob Cross, who's going to come in hot. You mentioned Dirk van Dijvenbode made a major final not that long ago and has been in contention at many events recently. Damon Heta won a Euro Tour and a Players' Championship just in the last week and a half. Danny Noppert's UK Open champion. Then there's Josh Rock, who made 2 finals, winning one of them at the Players' Championship this past week. And Nathan Aspinall has also only made a major final recently. And I didn't even mention the world runner-up, Michael Smith. The top half has a lot of difficult players. But I just think this is Luke Humphries' time. Despite everything I said, despite the recent bad run from number 1 seeds here, despite the fact that he's not playing at that same level that he was a few months ago, he hasn't needed to. He had done everything he could do on the European tour to get him in position to be the number 1 seed. He'd done everything he needed to in the Players' Championship events to make sure that he'd qualified for Minehead and has one of the higher seeds there. Yes, he hasn't won on television to that same extent that he did earlier, that he did like last year when he made the quarterfinals of the World Championship, made the final of the UK Open. But that changes now. He is too good and overall has been too good this year. I think it comes now. I think he makes the final. Does he win it? Oh, I don't have to pick that. I just have to pick who makes the final. So I'm not going to stick my neck on the line one way or another. But I'm going Luke Humphries to make the final from the top half.